Thank you, Donna, and thank you everyone here at APC. This is my third time attending the conference and always a great time, and I'm excited to share with you all something that I'm extremely passionate about, which is course design, curriculum development, and really tell the story of a partnership between a teaching and learning center, which is where I call home, and one of our major departments. So I'll start by kind of laying the scene here. This is why we kind of embarked on this journey. We were facing, as many institutions do face, I imagine, three really impactful issues that we needed to address. So today I'm going to tell the story of a connection between our department and one of our major departments, our fashion, merchandising, and management department, which is headed up by Andrea Kennedy, who unfortunately couldn't be here with us today, but I'm going to be telling the story of that collaboration. So Andrea came in to Berkeley College and she was faced with these three issues: low student retention within the program, low student engagement, and student absenteeism. And I feel like I'm singing an old song that we're all kind of feeling. So we know that these factors are influenced by many, many things. Our students are experiencing so many things outside of a classroom environment in their lives. They have responsibilities outside of just being a student. Many of our students especially have full-time jobs, have caregiver responsibilities, families, caring for elderly parents. All of those things kind of impact how they come up and show up in the classroom. But we wanted to see how we could impact those problems on the instruction side. We wanted to see what we could control and what we could do on the instructional piece to help mitigate these issues. So one of the things that when we start working with a department, we come in as basically the educational voice in the room. We're the instructional designers. We're here with the curriculum development experience, and then our collaborator on the faculty side is our subject matter expert. And one of the first courses that we started working with Andrea on was product development. And while we were working on product development, we decided, this is a really great process that we can apply to creating these courses. And it's something that Andrea herself does just naturally. So for those who are unfamiliar, the cycle for product development begins with user research. You want to know your customer. You want to appeal to your customer. You want to know what their wants and needs are. Then you take those, you ideate, you come up with ideas about how we can possibly meet those needs with the product. Then you prototype it, you try it out, you make it, you expose it to the user group, you get their feedback, and then you begin the process again. And this cycle really appealed to the way that we wanted to approach our course design. We wanted something that was alive. We wanted something that could be changed, adapted, and we wanted something that students would have impact on and visually and experience that impact. So the course became the product. So the way we adapted this process, we wanted to get to know the user, who was our student. Andrea did this very naturally, especially when she first came into Berkeley College. She organized those students and offered them pizza and sat with them and asked them questions. She did an activity called a salad bowl, where she puts slips of paper with different questions in them. And she would have all the students in a room pick a question and answer it to start a discussion. And she took all of that feedback that she received from those experiences, and she kind of puts it together and synthesizes it into what we're going to talk about next. So during that process of getting to know the user, we ask them, how do they learn? How do they learn? Obviously, these students are not experts in best practices of education, but they know how they personally learn. They know what experiences are valuable and what experiences they don't perceive as valuable. Then we take that information and we design for it. We see what we can take. We see what we can adapt. We see what we can apply. And then we get feedback from the students. How'd you like it? How did it go? Did you think it was useful? Do you think it was a good use of your time? Was it something that you enjoyed doing? And then we repeat the process again. So today I'm going to take you through that process. You're going to put on your instructional design hats, your instructor hats, and we're going to go through and examine some student feedback and see what we can pull from it. So for the purposes for today, I'm pulling one of our sample courses that we've worked on with our Fashion Merchandising and Management Department. This is Fashion FAS 3361, Fashion, Public Relations, and Events. And one of the course objectives for this course is to create an audience profile and understand how to organize the public relations approach, including scheduling, time release, budgeting, and media angles. So the students have to be able to do this at the end of the course. Broken down, here are a few sub-objectives for those who are like myself, who are not public relations experts. They have to gather relevant information about a target audience, sort audience information into categories, and then recommend a PR strategy that explains who to target, what message to deliver, and how to reach them. So when we first stepped in to examine that course, we looked at the practices that were happening. And these will probably look familiar. We had instructional delivery was through a lecture with slides. The instructor would either in person be delivering this in a classroom environment or online, perhaps in a video or a written lecture. Each week there was a weekly discussion board in an on-site environment that would be a moderated discussion between the students. Online it was a discussion board in Canvas, it's our LMS system. And then the two assessments we had for this objective were a multiple choice test and a 12 to 15 page paper where the students needed to write about this profile. So the first round of feedback Andrea collected, she found that the students did not want to be disconnected from the industry. They all wanted to go into fashion. They all want to go and work in some capacity in the fashion industry. So that was the big major takeaway that she took from those conversations. So in our first meeting together, we collaborated. We decided, all right, how can we apply that feedback to improve the outcomes of this course, to improve the student experience in this course? And so we replaced that assessment, the 12 to 15 page paper, with a brand project. Andrea has a deep network within the fashion industry. She pulled in some friends, she called in some favors, and they put together a brand project that students were able to develop. I believe they designed an event, they did a full fashion show from start to finish, run of show, table settings, favors, press releases, all those things that came into it. And overall, the students really enjoyed this brand project. They thought each piece was valuable. They communicated that within their course evaluations and in conversation. So they had a really great brand project, and they really liked doing that, but we were still seeing these same issues. We had not stopped the bleeding, essentially, with those three issues. So that caused us to dig a little bit deeper into, all right, so we've done one quick fix. Maybe more needs to happen here. So now I'm going to give you all some feedback that we've collected from students and allow you to parse through it and see what stands out to you about what the students are looking for in their educational experience. So each table, I have a list here. We gave the students a feedback survey around April, I think it was, so this is pretty recent. We got a decent amount of responses. I've curated them a little bit here so they're not overwhelming for you. So on the page, I'll pass that out, everybody. Oh, thank you, Byron. Here's, each of these is 5, so one to each table. All right. So we asked them first what their most valued assignments were. We asked them what their least valued assignments were. We did like a ranking system. And then we asked them a few different questions. We asked them what they perceived to be a waste of time in a class. If anybody needs more, I have some more. We asked them what they would love to see. What they would love to see more of in their classes. We asked them And now we're getting to the point now where we're asking students their perceptions on AI as well, because we know that that could be a critical engagement point, as well as adjusting to perceived value of a course. So we also asked them, what would you like to see more of in order to make online or on-site classroom experience more meaningful to you and today's learners in general? And then we asked them to put their instructor hat on. If you could teach a lesson, what might you teach? What might you do? Get them to think in the perspective of an instructor. So take a look. I'm going to give you all a few minutes to discuss with your table, look at the feedback results, and answer the following questions. And we'll come back together and make a collaborative list here. So what experiences do students value in a learning environment? What kind of jumps out to you as stuff students value? And then what experiences do students not value? And then we'll bring it back. All right? Give you all 5 minutes. All right, I was overhearing some really excellent conversation. All right, so let's come together. Let's see what really stood out to everyone about, let me make sure I did this right. Okay, about what the students had said. So let's start with the positive. What do they value in a learning environment? And just feel free to yell it out. I'm gonna try to capture it. Field trips, faculty engagement. Can you talk a bit more about that? What do you think that means?
Moving beyond the actual material and talking about your experience and how to apply it and having personality.
Hands-on assignments. I think we're doing that.
I heard field trips and I heard hands-on assignments. What does that mean? What does hands-on assignments mean? What do you think about it?
That might be a disconnect in all of this, is that the faculty are not transparent with their methodologies to tell the students why we're doing a particular lecture or why a PowerPoint is important or why a field trip is important, right? So you're having students critique something very technical, but they don't have an academic background. So that's my thought.
Thinking about the other hand, in terms of hands-on, give to associate. A not value would be to do work for the sake of doing work, right? So I mean, just to keep busy work where you get nothing out of it, I don't think is valuable, especially this generation, which is so quick and want in and out. On the value side, on the paper I see, guest speakers, I think this generation wants to be able to relate to what the future looks like, and if they can see themselves in somebody. We had an event where in sports management, we had Chris Sims, who's Phil Sims' son, who's big in broadcasting and all that, come. And we had a lot of faculty members. Dr. Kogan was there, and he was dropping the F-bomb like it was like you and I are talking right now, right? And many of us were like this, but he connected with the students, right? The students were hanging on every single word that was coming out of his mouth. Agreeable or not agreeable, right? But he connects with them. So I think this generation needs to connect with that faculty member. The idea that faculty in many institutions have faculty that are from the industry. They can talk about it, it's not just book. I went to school and faculty that I had never stepped foot in the business world and was teaching me accounting and all that kind of stuff. I never knew how to really be practical about it. Our industries have faculty members that have worked in the field or are still working in the field who come to teach for us, right? So that I think is very important for this generation of students.
Yeah, I think you hit on a few really important things. That feeling of connection to both, the ability to connect directly to the industry is huge. The ability to connect with your instructor and connect with your classmates, also huge, that community feel. And that element, and I want to emphasize it, is the ability to see themselves in the industry that they're choosing. The belonging piece is enormous. Mm-hmm.
To that, one of the things that we have here is field trips. Those field trips into the industry is so important for them to visualize this is a space where this career takes place. Look at how
environment in itself too. Absolutely, great, great, great. Any more for, we have a lot for value, which is excellent. Do we have any for not value? Anything we should avoid?
So we talked a lot about sort of death by PowerPoint, lack of imagination in the discussion boards or structure. And then if you think about it, it's compounded. If all the faculty doing the same thing, then you're bored with their whole methodology, because here you go again, you're going to sit in this PowerPoint, you're going to lecture to it. So where's the imagination? Where's the diversity of approach? Where's the application, exposure? We want something else besides that.
Yeah.
I think we also have to realize that our students are learning very differently, right? I can be someone that can sit in a lecture for 3 hours and be fine, and the next student, in 20 minutes, they're done, right? So I think that faculty needs to be able to implement different modalities of teaching in one lecture where they capture every single student in that class. And that's not easy. Let me tell you, I give it to our faculty, and they do an amazing job. But I think we have to adapt to them instead of expecting the students to adapt to us.
Great. Any other comments? I think we did a really good job capturing a lot of the main themes here.
To me, it's about providing context and connections. Like, all the information they need is available online. They don't need to come to class to get the information. They need the context for the information and how to apply it and make those connections between pieces of information. That's the value.
Nice. So we've got connection, context, community, belonging, all of those kind of come together for the student.
I know there's something important too, which maybe not really emphasized enough, is the learning environment. I didn't think we do enough. I think we're very rigid and structured in the way we have a traditional classroom setting with a lecturer in the front of the room, students facing the lecturer. I think being more creative or innovative about the different ways that we can engage students in the learning environment is important. Learning communities, having students learn from each other, going outside and doing, I mean, there's just got to be better ways to approach it and have everyone sit facing the front of the room.
Yeah. In rows, looking at the print. Absolutely. Excellent. Any more comments? Awesome. All right. Let me make sure I'm doing this right. All right. So, excellent. So we're going to take some of those points and we are going to approach a course redesign. So how we can align our teaching with student feedback. And I think it's important to note, and it was the question was raised earlier, it's like these students are asked to comment on something they may not have any real technical or any expertise in. This is where us as instructors, as instructional designers, come in to leverage that expertise. Because we could get feedback that students say, it's too much work, I can't, and that's not exactly feedback that we want to apply right away. We want rigor, we want things to be the appropriate amount of effort, but there are bits of feedback that we can apply and filter and sort. So, I'm going to take you through a few things that we did, kind of twofold. We did some that were immediate and easy to implement, and then we did some that were a little bit more difficult to implement, that were a little bit more complex. So I'll take you through a few examples of both of those. And then I'm going to task you all to see, based on the feedback that we took and the conclusions we drew, and maybe some of the examples that I gave, to apply it to create some learning experiences or brainstorm some learning experiences for that first objective that I presented earlier. So these are some of the more easily implementable, quick strategies that we could put to address some of the student feedback. The first was assignment formatting. And this, I'll show you an example in a moment, was really seeking to attack that context, why I'm doing this piece. We wanted students to be overtly aware of what they were doing and why we were having them do it, and that to effectively remove that busy work piece. And then, as you all picked up on, they wanted external experiences. They wanted field trips. They wanted guest lectures. They wanted to be on the ground in the industry. So we wanted to see where we can incorporate that, but we wanted to have some kind of accountability piece for that too. It wasn't just showing up. It was showing up and engaging, and then reflecting on that experience. And then we wanted to try to address some of the feedback about discussion boards and about connection and collaborating with your peers to use some more interactive tools. We tried out some other tools that could potentially help with that. So we use this structure. This is a version of transparent assignment design, if we want to go into the theory behind it. But we wanted to introduce this structure to all of the assignments that we were developing. We wanted students to know the purpose of what they were doing, how it was going to serve them in the broader context. We wanted them to know exactly what we were looking for in terms of the goal. What are you looking to do in this assignment? What is the outcome that is expected? We wanted to give them clear step-by-step instructions, which was really helpful because as instructional designers, we're typically designing these and we do not have the subject matter expertise required to do it. So we were effectively explaining this process as a novice to try to understand it ourselves, which was really effective because then Andrea, who is the subject matter expert, can come in and say, that's not how we would do it this way. We could change this, but we still had those nitty-gritty details needed to make sure that students were clear as to what they needed to do. And then the last piece, how can I do my best on this activity? Success criteria. What are we looking for? What are you looking for to accomplish? So we added this this is how we design every one of our new assignments. We include all of this information for the students. And we've gotten feedback from students that the clarity of what's expected of them and how they can accomplish the assignment was really impactful for them, and that they were really, it gave them a little bit of a sense of comfort knowing I have all the information I need to be successful. We used here an example of one of our immersion events. So one thing Andrea wanted to do is she wanted to intersperse industry immersion assignments throughout. So we added, we start small, we start simple, and we scale it up as they progress through the program. The first one they do is just attending an event and reflecting on it. The second one they do, about 2,000, 3,000 level courses, they go and they engage. So they talk to a vendor at a trade show, or they go and ask questions during an industry talk that we host. And they do like a social media post or some kind of deliverable about it. And then the last one they do is during their capstone, and I'm going to talk about that in a bit. This is an example of something that we did to try to bring in new technology to help with the discussion board engagement. So we have access to a tool called Lucid, which is the digital whiteboard through Canvas. And Andrea piloted it during her Photoshop class. So she wanted something like a big, broad corkboard of all of the students' work so that all the students could see everything that everyone was doing and be able to comment on it. So we have all the students, instead of in a traditional discussion with threaded replies, they'll go in and just read the 2 that they're required to read and comment. This one, they see everybody. So she had them put their work, this is their Photoshop work that they did, and then she has different sections as to how the students can comment. They all have a different color sticky note. They all go in, they comment, they highlight, they give little react emojis, they comment on each other's comments. So it was really effective, and the students really enjoyed it just because it's a little bit different. It's different, it's visual, they're able to see what everybody's doing, and it was inviting for them to participate. So this is something that we want to continue to employ to see how else we can leverage it. Okay. Now we get to the more complicated pieces. So you all correctly highlighted students want projects. They want something that, in terms of the hands-on piece, they want something that they can build and do and interact with and create themselves, right? So we did that in a few ways. The first is we at Berkeley have a designer in residence program. So we welcome an actual designer in the industry to take up residency at our campus, and the students have access to this designer for a variety of assignments. So we integrate these projects with this designer in multiple parts throughout the program, as early as the intro class, as late as the capstone. And this past year, actually today is his like goodbye party, was our designer in residence. So the students did The most recent one we did is they planned a fashion show. He had been commissioned to do a fashion show in Texas, his home state, and the students planned it from start to finish. They pulled in from his theme, they did a color palette, they did front of house, back of house, they did all of the different elements that contribute to the fashion show, and Bachmai was there every step of the way to give them feedback, to guide them, to give them suggestions, and so that really played into that real world project, something authentic that they would do if they were hired in this role, and they got industry feedback, which is incredible. The next thing that they did, we wanted to incorporate some more asset-based projects. We wanted things that students could take with them in a portfolio when they went to a job interview. And one of those things was our last industry immersion assignment, which was an opportunity for students to interview a member of the fashion industry. So again, Andrea pulled from her network. She asked any one of her contacts if they would be willing to sit and meet up with a student. The students were tasked with scheduling the interview, attending the interview, coming up with questions, and then writing a write-up, a blog post about the interview, about the key takeaways they took from that interview. And then we had the opportunity for the students to submit it to our external comms team and have it published within our Berkeley ecosystem. So this one here was one that was chosen to be published by one of our students, Simone. And I'll give you a little, after this experience, she wrote to Andrea just to express her gratitude, and this is what she said. I really want to say thank you for the opportunity that we as students got through this assignment. I absolutely loved it, and I think it was such a great way for us students to learn and to network. My intern went extremely well. She offered to refer me to an open job position within the product development team, which I would love to work with. And even though it didn't guarantee me in any way that I'm getting the job, I'm still grateful that I got the chance to get to know people in the industry thanks to you and to learn. I think this has been one of my favorite projects in general. So the value perception is there. She sees the direct connection to how this is going to benefit her in her future career and how it can be just another member of her network that she can call from. And then the last thing that we do are these showcase projects, semester-long, gradual building, feedback incorporated projects that run the entire semester with an industry audience. So this one here is from one we did in the fall that we're going to do again this fall, which was a collaboration with a group called Social Teas, which is an animal rescue, animal rights advocacy organization. So our product development students, they created dog clothes. They developed dog clothes. They prototyped them, they built them, they sewed them, they learned all the skills needed to do that. And then we had a canine catwalk, which is the picture that you see here. And so the students had to go through every step of that product development. They needed to do their user research, they needed to do their ideation, their prototyping, they needed to get feedback, which they got from the industry audience. There was prizes awarded, I believe. So it was a very real experience for them. They were able to actually see it play out as it would if they were working as a product developer. And so all of these projects were complex, multi-step, a lot of feedback required. They were gradual, building upon each other, and they were growth-oriented. There was never a thought of it being kind of done and you could walk away. It was all about building upon an initial idea. But additionally, they were joyful. I mean, how can you not be happy at a dog fashion show, really, right? They were purposeful. They saw directly how it was going to impact the way that they venture into their career. And it was perceived as valuable because it was something it came directly from what they wanted. All right. So with those examples, I'm going to give you all the chance to participate now in the second step actually, of the product development process, which is ideation. So how can we design learning experiences to align with student values, wants, and needs? And as a curriculum developer, you have to start at the beginning, right? You start at the backward design. Where do we want to end up? We want to end up at creating an audience profile and understand how to organize the public relations approach, including scheduling, blah, 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 blah. And these are the sub-objectives. So don't worry, I have a graphic organizer for you with that information. You don't have to remember it. This is another strategy, by the way, creating graphic organizer templates. So when you're thinking about how to design a learning experience, you might want to think about, all right, how are we going to, oh, thank you. How are we going to transfer knowledge? So how are we going to give information? How are we going to explain skills and practice skills? And then you also want to think about, all right, what does the end look like? How are they going to show me that they know how to do this? So there would be learning experiences, information skills, and then assessments. How are they going to show me what they know, right? So for the next about 5 minutes, I think, based on the feedback that we had and the conversations that we had, brainstorm some ideas to teach and assess the goals that are at the top of the worksheet that you can see. Consider those two things that I just talked about, and then you can use the worksheet to help you. I'll give another 5, but if we need more time, we can have a little bit more, I think, but I think 5 should be good. And then, we'll come back and share. We'll see what we come up with. All right, I'll wait till everybody has one. Before we jump into this, does anyone have any questions or anything that they want to mention before we jump in? Great. All right, 5 minutes. Let's see what we come up with. All right, everyone, let's see what we came up with. What learning experiences did we design for these students? I'm, again, going to record. Let's see if I did this right. There we go. All right, I'm going to record. If you want to just shout out your ideas, I will capture them.
I had said actually assigning the students to specific clients, affording them the opportunity to go onto site or out into the industries to meet with those clients and run meetings to really understand their portfolio, understand the client's expectations for the project rather than the professor setting it in a surreal scenario for them. With the specific audience, again, being able to explore that audience, whether by methods of creating a survey to get information or a focus group, or even going out into a community or an area or a space to be able to observe that audience, interact with that audience, and gain that real understanding. So we're bringing in that hands-on practical experience that the student says that they wanted, getting them out of the lecture modality or out of the professor, connecting with real-world examples.
Nice, boots on the ground, getting them actually in there interacting with the people that they were serving. Yes.
I have one. So I was thinking about, social media influencers and all that. So thinking about like a product that they purchased recently in backtracking to maybe how they heard about it. So like, was it a TikTok shop? Was it an influencer looking at the entire campaign that was done for that product?
Nice, love that. Love that. All right, what other ideas? What else do we have? Yes.
We talked about 2 levels, learning class in small groups with case material, and one team using a rubric to evaluate what they came up with. Make sure they're very familiar with what the rubric is for each objective, and then going out in the field and interviewing other people such professionals or people in the field and bringing that material back. So it's sort of 2 levels.
Right. Yeah, so within the kind of enclosed classroom and then in the broader community. Nice. Any other ideas, thoughts, comments? No, these are great ideas. And I will be taking them back with me. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right, so let's bring it home. So this is the big question now. So obviously we're in an iterative loop. We're always assessing, and honestly, this concept is not new. This is design thinking. This is assessment. All of this is contributing to those already tried and true practices. But the big difference here is we are really probing into the student and their perceived value and their educational experience. So we do assessment in multiple ways. We look at student outcomes, we look at how students are progressing through the program, but we also look at course evaluations, which is a direct measure of students' perception. So we did these are from our winter 2026 course evaluations, which we deployed in April, because we're on a trimester system. And here are so with the question we ask is, what was the most valuable activity assignment in the course? And here's what they said. 2000 level course. The field trips were the most effective part of learning for my course. Since it was my first fashion-related class, some concepts were difficult to fully understand through lectures alone. Visiting real industry settings and hearing directly from professionals helped me better understand the material. We also have, this one is another 2000 level. The most effective assignment in the course was garment blocking and reconstruction, so something hands-on. The most effective parts of the course for me were the portfolio projects. That was our capstone. When it was time to connect with someone that we had to choose from the fashion industry background and have an interview with them. It's from our capstone. So again, those themes of connection, context, and then fashion immersion assignment was the most effective. This is our 1000 level intro class. The fashion trend tracking assignment, which was a multi-stage assignment throughout the semester, was the most effective to my learning. So the students are recognizing these changes. They're highlighting them as a valuable part of their learning experience, but we know that this work isn't done. This work will never be done. We will be doing this forever because our students are going to change. Our population that we serve is going to change. Our user is going to change. So we just continue this process and continue to make changes. And that honestly is what makes me really excited about education, is because it is something alive. It is something that we are constantly working toward to make it the best it can be for our students. So then the question that this raises is then, how can you apply this concept to other areas in higher education? And that's the question I'm gonna leave you with today. So thank you very much, everyone. This has been a fun time.